Hey everybody, Jen from Abby's here. Thanks for joining us for the first and hopefully what is to be many Friday freebie sewing classes. Today we are going to start with something pretty easy and super cheap, in fact maybe free, depending on how many scraps you have handy. This is a method called English paper piecing. It is a little bit like sewing crack because it is super addictive. So all you're going to need are little hexagon paper pieces. You can actually cut these out from a printed piece of paper. You can load up a Cricut file, or you can just draw them out and cut them. Or better yet, you can go to paperpieces.com and email them and ask them to send you some samples. They can send you as few as one or as many as like 20, depending on how many you ask for. But this is a great skill because it not only is portable, you can take it anywhere, you can do it anywhere. It uses tiny little pieces of fabric. So if you're a hoarder like me and you love to keep your fabrics that you think are just so pretty, this is a great way to get rid of those. I just want to show you one quick example of just one of the millions of things you can make with this technique, and that is just a simple little art project. So these are all Hexies, same size as the ones we'll be working with in today's video. And they just were sewn together and attached to this beautiful little canvas. So as you can see, it's really pretty. So let's go ahead and get started. What we need to get started are your Hexie pieces. They'll usually send you about, I don't know, 7, I think, of these pre-cuts. Now if you want to do a flower, then you're going to need 7 Hexies, okay? You're going to need some fabric, just little pieces of fabric will do. Anything that's about a ½ inch bigger all the way around, then your Hexie is all you'll need. You'll need your pins and a pin cushion. You'll need, of course, a needle and thread. I'm going to use a Sharpie, but you certainly don't have to use a Sharpie. You can use a pencil, a chalk, or just, you know, freehand cut. This is my favorite little hack, which you're going to love. I'm going to show you that in a second. And then, of course, you're going to need your scissors. I've got some thread snips and I've got some fabric scissors. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my first Hexie piece and I'm going to turn it to the wrong side of the fabric. I'm going to use my Sharpie to kind of eyeball where I need to cut. So I'm going to cut just about a ½ inch away from each of my sides. Bigger is better, so it's totally okay if you make giant cuts. It's better to have a bigger piece to fold over than a smaller piece. And I really didn't need my Hexie, but just for demo purposes. All right, so I've got a nice shape that I can start with. Now I'm going to show you the hack first. This hack can be used when all you're going to be doing is making an art project. You could do this for a quilt, but I wouldn't recommend it because the paper stays put. So you're just going to take your glue stick. You're going to take your glue stick and you're going to just draw a line of glue, fold the fabric over, give it a nice press, and repeat on the other sides. So I've glued my fabric. Come on, fingers. And my main focus is making sure that my fabric is folded right up against the paper hex. Okay, and when you turn it over, perfect little fabric hexagon. Isn't that pretty? So we're gonna set that baby aside. I'm gonna do this again. This time we're gonna do it with needle and thread. So again, I could snip off my extra just to kind of give myself a little control over my fabric. All right, so your first step is going to be to fold this one over that way and fold the next edge over on the first one. Take your needle and thread, and if you can, you're just going to be grabbing the fabric itself. So you're just stitching these 2 layers together, and I'm going to give it one more stitch. Okay, that is a nice secure stitch. I'm not at all sewing the paper. However, if you do sew the paper, it's no biggie. You can always just gently pop it out when you're done. So now I'm going to fold this over take both of those layers and create a stitch. Fold this one over. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make my creases against the edges of my hexie very, very crisp. So that I have a nice sharp hexagon shape rather than a biscuit. Ooh, biscuits. Now I'm hungry. I'm also trying to get my stitches on the back side of my hexie so that they don't appear on the front. And my last stitch, I'm going to tuck it that way just so I can be consistent. All right, that is that. All right, now because I'm OCD, I like to just make one final stitch across the hexie just to make sure that it stays in the right shape. And I don't even need to knot it, I can just cut it. All right, so voila, there we have our pretty little hexie. And what I'm gonna do next is press this with an iron, or you can just finger press it. The friction and the heat from your fingers will give that just the tiniest little crease, which is super helpful for this next step. Okay, now here comes the magic, check it out. All you need to do is peel back your folds and pop the paper out. And look, good as new, you can use that over and over again. And what we have left is a perfect little hexie. If I had pressed that with an iron, it would be super flat. That is a nice little hexie. So once you've gotten a nice stack of these guys, you can do many things with them. I'm going to demonstrate that one more time. And then across, just to make sure that I've got everything where I want it to be. Oop, I got a knot. Okay, there it is. I don't need to knot it. Always put your pins and your needles back in your pin cushions. And now I can just fold back my hexie, pull the paper out, pop it back in shape. There we go. So next week, we're going to talk about how to assemble these guys into a project. And you can already kind of see that that might someday turn into something like this. So I hope you enjoyed today's freebie. And if you have any questions, always feel free to visit us at Abby's Attic Sewing Studio. We're at 2250 Thousand Oaks, Suite 208. You can also find us on Facebook, Abby's Attic Sewing School, on Instagram, Abby's Attic Sewing School, and on TikTok, Abby's Attic Sewing School. Have a great week. We'll see you later.